If you've ever been the family scapegoat who had to prove your pain was real, hit that like button and subscribe right now. You're not going to want to miss what happened next. My name is Sofia Martinez, and for 4 years, my family told everyone I was faking systemic lupus erythematosus for attention. What they didn't know was that while they were destroying my reputation, I was quietly building a $94 million pharmaceutical consulting company that specialized in autoimmune disease drug trials. And the medical board director my mother humiliated me in front of? She'd been investigating my family's medical abuse for 8 months. But let me start from the beginning. I was 26 when the symptoms started. I'd been working as a biochemist at a research hospital in Seattle, on track for my PhD, living my dream life. Then came the joint pain so severe I couldn't hold a pipette. The butterfly rash across my face that looked like a sunburn but never faded. The fatigue that felt like drowning in cement. 6 specialists later, the diagnosis came: systemic lupus erythematosus with kidney involvement. Aggressive, unpredictable, potentially fatal if not managed properly. I called my mom from the rheumatologist's office, terrified. She was a retired elementary school teacher, always practical, always level-headed. Or so I thought. Lupus? That's what celebrities claim to have when they want attention, she said. Are you sure you're not just tired from working too hard? My dad, a real estate agent, was worse. Your sister works 2 jobs and goes to law school. She doesn't complain. Maybe you need to toughen up. My older sister Rebecca, the golden child, the one who could do no wrong? She laughed. Oh great, Sophia found a new way to make everything about her. That was my first clue that this diagnosis would destroy my family relationships. Within 3 months I had to leave my PhD program. The medications made me immunocompromised. The kidney involvement meant I needed regular monitoring. I couldn't work in a lab with chemicals and biological samples anymore. Too dangerous for someone whose immune system was already attacking itself. I moved back home to Portland to save money and recover. Worst decision of my life. My family didn't just disbelieve my illness. They actively sabotaged my treatment. Mom would forget to remind me about doctor's appointments. She'd cook meals with ingredients I'd told her triggered my flares: shellfish, alfalfa sprouts. Then act offended when I couldn't eat them. You're just being difficult. Dad refused to help pay for my medication copays. If you were really sick, insurance would cover everything. My immunosuppressants cost $1,200 a month after insurance. I burned through my savings in 4 months. Rebecca started a whisper campaign among extended family. At her engagement party, I overheard her telling our aunts, Sophia's faking this whole lupus thing because she couldn't hack it in grad school. She's always been jealous that I'm successful and she's not. The extended family believed her. Of course they did. Rebecca was the successful lawyer in training with the perfect fiancé and the designer wardrobe. I was the dropout living at home, covered in rashes, too tired to attend family events. But the cruelest part was how they treated my visible symptoms. The butterfly rash, the distinctive red rash across the nose and cheeks that's a hallmark of lupus, became a joke. Nice makeup, Sophia. Going for the clown look, Rebecca would say at family dinners. When my hair started falling out from the medications, Mom told relatives I'd shaved it for attention. She's going through a phase. Ignore it. When I used a wheelchair on bad days, lupus can cause severe joint inflammation and muscle weakness. Dad told his friends I was being dramatic and milking sympathy. The final straw came when I discovered they were intercepting my mail. I'd applied for disability assistance and the approval letter never reached me. I only found out when the state agency called asking why I hadn't responded. Mom had thrown it away. You don't need disability. You need a job and some self-respect, she said when I confronted her. That was 2 years ago. That's when I decided to disappear from their narrative and build something they'd never see coming. What my family didn't know was that losing my lab position didn't end my career. It redirected it. I still had my biochemistry expertise. I still had connections in pharmaceutical research. And I had something new: lived experience as a patient with a complex autoimmune disease. I started consulting remotely for pharmaceutical companies developing lupus treatments. I reviewed clinical trial protocols, identified design flaws, suggested patient-centered modifications. I worked from home during my functional hours, usually 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on good days, and built a reputation as the consultant who understood both the science and the patient experience. Within 6 months, I had more work than I could handle solo. I hired 2 other scientists with autoimmune diseases. Within a year, I'd founded Autoimmune Insights, a pharmaceutical consulting firm specializing in autoimmune disease drug development. Our value proposition was unique. We provided scientific expertise plus patient advocacy. We helped companies design clinical trials that actually worked for people with unpredictable, fluctuating conditions. We prevented the common failures that happened when healthy scientists designed protocols without understanding patient reality. The market was desperate for what we offered. Autoimmune drug development has a 90% failure rate, often because trials are designed without patient input. We changed that. Within 18 months, we had 12 employees and contracts with 7 pharmaceutical companies. Within 2 years, we were consulting on $2.3 billion worth of drug development programs. I made myself CEO but kept my public profile minimal. I used my middle name professionally, Sophia N Consulting, and worked mostly behind the scenes. My family had no idea. They thought I was still unemployed, living off disability checks that they'd prevented me from getting. In reality, I was making $180,000 annually, had excellent health insurance through my own company, and was saving for my own accessible home. But more than the money, I was changing the landscape for autoimmune patients. 3 drugs we consulted on were now in late-stage trials. If approved, they'd help millions of people like me. I also connected with Dr. Helen Zhao, the director of the Oregon Medical Board. She spoke at an autoimmune disease conference where I was presenting. We bonded over shared frustration with how poorly the medical system treats chronic illness patients. Dr. Zhao became a mentor and, eventually, a friend. When I casually mentioned my family's medical sabotage during a coffee meeting, she stopped me mid-sentence. Sophia, what you're describing is medical abuse. Interfering with a patient's access to treatment, disposing of medications, blocking disability applications. Those are criminal acts in Oregon. They're my family, I said weakly. That makes it worse, not better. He pulled out a business card. If you ever want to pursue this officially, call me. What they're doing is exactly what the medical board exists to prevent. I kept that card for 18 months before I used it. The hospital appointment that changed everything was supposed to be routine. I needed my quarterly kidney function tests at Providence Portland Medical Center, standard monitoring for lupus patients with kidney involvement. I didn't know my family would be there. I certainly didn't know Dr. Zhao would be there. My mom had recently befriended a woman named Linda at her book club. Linda's husband had been hospitalized for a minor surgery, and Mom was visiting to provide support. She'd been bragging about what a good friend she was, how generous with her time. I arrived at the hospital lab waiting room at 9 a.m., already exhausted. I'd had a flare the night before, joint pain, fever, the works. I was using my wheelchair because walking was excruciating. And there was my mom sitting with Linda, clearly in the middle of entertaining her with stories. Mom saw me and her face went through several emotions. Surprise, annoyance, then something calculating. She whispered something to Linda, who looked at me with obvious curiosity. I checked in at the desk, then wheeled to a corner seat, hoping to avoid interaction. I had my medical file folder with me. I always brought documentation to appointments, a habit I'd developed after years of doctors dismissing my symptoms. Mom stood up and walked over. Sophia, what are you doing here? Kidney function tests. Quarterly monitoring. I kept my voice neutral. In a wheelchair. Really? She laughed, that cruel little laugh I'd learned to hate. Last week you walked to the mailbox just fine. That was a good day. Today isn't. Rebecca appeared from around the corner. Apparently she'd driven Mom. Perfect. Both of them. Oh my God, Sophia, this is embarrassing, Rebecca hissed. People can see you. I'm getting medical treatment. That's nothing to be embarrassed about. You're making a scene, Mom said, her voice getting louder. Linda was watching now, along with a dozen other people in the waiting room. Then Mom turned to the room and raised her voice. I'm so sorry everyone has to witness this. My daughter has Munchausen syndrome. She pretends to be sick for attention. My hands gripped the wheelchair armrests. Several people looked away uncomfortably. Others stared. Rebecca joined in. She's lying about lupus for sympathy. She's making it all up. She quit her PhD program because she couldn't handle the work, Mom announced to the room. Then she invented this whole chronic illness story so no one would call her a failure. Linda looked between me and my mom, clearly uncertain who to believe. Look at her, Rebecca said, gesturing at me like I was evidence in a trial. Perfect makeup, hairstyled, sitting in a wheelchair she doesn't need. It's all performance. I have lupus, I said quietly, but my voice was shaking. I'm here for kidney function tests because lupus is attacking my kidneys. Liar, Mom said flatly. I've watched you for 2 years. You're fine when you want to be. Sick when it's convenient. You're manipulating everyone. I pulled out my medical file folder, thick with test results, doctor's notes, medication lists. I have documentation. Mom snatched it from my lap before I could stop her. Oh, I'm sure you've convinced some doctors to play along. That's what people with Munchausen do. She started flipping through pages, showing them to Linda and other waiting room patients. See? She's probably doctor shopping until someone gives her the diagnosis she wants. Those are real test results from real doctors, I said, my voice breaking. Please give them back. And oh, Mom said loudly. Someone needs to stop enabling your delusions. She ripped several pages from the folder and started tearing them up. I stayed silent. Tears were running down my face, but I said nothing. What could I say? She'd already decided I was lying. The whole room had heard her version first. Rebecca pulled out her phone. I'm filming this. Maybe public shame will finally make you admit you're faking. That's when Dr. Helen Zhao walked into the waiting room. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from tonight. Dr. Zhao had been visiting the hospital for a medical board inspection. Random reviews to ensure quality of care. She'd been in the administrative offices when hospital security had called about a disturbance in the lab waiting area. She walked in just as Mom was tearing up my medical records and Rebecca was filming me crying. Dr. Zhao's face went from professional neutrality to cold fury in seconds. Excuse me, she said, her voice cutting through the chaos like a scalpel. I'm Dr. Helen Zhao, director of the Oregon Medical Board. The room went silent. Mom froze mid-tear, a piece of my lab results hanging from her hand. Dr. Zhao walked directly to my mother. You just destroyed a patient's confidential medical records in a public hospital waiting room. That's a violation of multiple state and federal laws. These aren't real records, Mom stammered. She's faking. I've reviewed Sophia's complete medical file, Dr. Zhao interrupted. As medical board director, I have access to all licensed physician records when investigating potential medical abuse. I've been reviewing Sophia's case for 8 months. Rebecca's phone dropped slightly. What? Dr. Zhao turned to face the waiting room, projecting her voice so everyone could hear. Sophia Martinez has systemic lupus erythematosus, confirmed by 3 independent rheumatologists. Kidney biopsy results show lupus nephritis class 4. RNA positive, double-stranded DNA antibodies elevated, complement levels consistently low. These are not subjective symptoms. These are objective laboratory findings that cannot be faked. Mom's face drained of color. But she seems fine sometimes. Lupus is a relapsing remitting disease, Dr. Zhao continued. Patients have good days and bad days. That's characteristic of the condition, not evidence of malingering. Any physician would know that. Your daughter having good days doesn't mean she's faking. It means her treatment is partially effective. She pulled out her own tablet showing something to the room. Furthermore, I've documented multiple instances of medical abuse by Sophia's family. Intercepting mail related to disability applications. Disposing of prescribed medications. Preventing access to medical appointments. Serving food items the patient has documented allergies to. This behavior worsens Sophia's condition by approximately 60%, according to her treatment team's analysis. That's insane, Rebecca said, but her voice wavered. We're her family. We were trying to help her see reality. You were medically abusing a vulnerable patient, Dr. Zhao said coldly. And in Oregon, that's a criminal offense. Hospital security arrived. 2 officers, already briefed by Dr. Zhao's call minutes earlier. These 2 individuals, Dr. Zhao indicated Mom and Rebecca, need to be escorted from the premises and banned from visiting without authorization. I'm filing formal reports with Portland Police and Adult Protective Services regarding medical abuse of a dependent adult. Dependent adult? She's 28. Mom protested. She has a disability that substantially limits one or more major life activities. Under Oregon law that qualifies. And you've been systematically interfering with her medical care. Dr. Zhao's voice was ice. You're lucky I'm not having you arrested right now. Security stepped toward my mother and sister. Mom's face went from pale to red. This is ridiculous. Sophia, tell them this is all a misunderstanding. I looked at my mother. This woman who'd given birth to me, raised me, and then spent 4 years trying to convince everyone including myself that my suffering wasn't real. It's not a misunderstanding, I said quietly. You've been destroying my medical records, blocking my treatment, and publicly humiliating me for 4 years. Dr. Zhao is right. What you did is abuse. The security officers escorted Mom and Rebecca toward the exit, but not before Linda, Mom's book club friend, stood up. Patricia, is this true? Have you been lying about your daughter being sick? Mom tried to maintain composure. Linda, you don't understand. Sophia's always been dramatic. I work in healthcare administration, Linda said coldly. If the medical board director says your daughter has documented lupus and you've been interfering with her treatment, then you've been committing medical abuse. And you made me witness it. He turned to me. I'm so sorry. I believed her stories about you. Then she turned to the room. For anyone who heard Patricia's accusations, they're false. This woman has been medically abusing her disabled daughter. Mom's face crumbled. Her social reputation, the thing she cared about most, was disintegrating in real time. Please, Mom begged security. Let me explain to Sophia privately. No, Dr. Zhao interjected. Sophia has a restraining order petition ready to file. I've been helping her prepare it for months. She didn't want to use it because she hoped you'd stop on your own. You didn't. She handed documents to the security officers. Temporary protection order, emergency filing. Effective immediately. Patricia Martinez and Rebecca Martinez are prohibited from contacting Sophia Martinez through any means. Rebecca started crying. You can't do this. We're family. You stopped being family when you chose cruelty over compassion, I said, finding my voice again. Every time you called me a faker. Every time you laughed at my symptoms. Every time you told people I was lying. You weren't family. You were bullies. Dr. Zhao pulled out another folder. She'd come prepared, clearly having anticipated this confrontation might happen. Before security removes you, there are additional matters to address. She opened the folder. Sophia, do you consent to me sharing the contents of this investigation with your mother and sister? Yes, I said. Dr. Zhao pulled out the first document. Patricia Martinez, you destroyed Sophia's prescribed medications on 4 documented occasions. Prednisone, hydroxychloroquine, and immunosuppressants. Each instance could have triggered a life-threatening lupus flare. That's reckless endangerment. Mom's mouth opened and closed. I thought she didn't need them. You're not a doctor. You don't get to make that determination. Dr. Zhao pulled out another page. You also intercepted and destroyed Sophia's approved disability benefits letter, preventing her from receiving $1,847 monthly in assistance she qualified for. That's theft and fraud. I was trying to motivate her. Mom protested. You were stealing from a disabled person, Dr. Zhao corrected. Rebecca Martinez, you've posted on social media 43 times claiming your sister is faking disability. That's defamation and disability discrimination. Your posts have been screenshot and compiled as evidence. Rebecca's face went white. Those were private posts to friends. Social media isn't private. And several of your friends have reported feeling pressured by you to shun your sister. That's constructive harassment. Hit that subscribe button if you've ever had to prove your invisible illness was real, because what happened next changed everything. Dr. Zhao pulled out a third document. But here's what you really need to know. Sophia isn't the unemployed burden you've been describing to everyone. Mom and Rebecca both looked confused. Sophia, would you like to tell them or should I? I wheeled forward slightly. My hands were steadier now. I'd been preparing for this moment for 2 years. While you were telling everyone I was faking lupus and unemployed, I was building a pharmaceutical consulting company, I said. Autoimmune Insights. We specialize in autoimmune disease drug development. We're currently valued at $94 million. Rebecca's face went slack. What? I'm the CEO. I have 12 employees. We consult on drug trials for 7 major pharmaceutical companies. I make $180,000 annually, plus stock options. I pulled out my own folder, my documentation weapon. I have excellent health insurance through my own company. I own my own accessible home. And I did it all while managing the disease you claimed didn't exist. I slid documents across to where Mom stood frozen. These are financial statements, tax returns, Forbes small business feature about autoimmune insights, business registration documents, corporate bank statements. Mom didn't pick them up. She just stared. But here's the part you're really going to hate, I continued. Remember Dad's real estate investment business? The one he said was struggling and he needed to close. They both nodded. I'm his silent investor. I bought 65% ownership 18 months ago when he was facing bankruptcy. He doesn't know it's me. I used a holding company. I've been keeping his business afloat while you've been telling everyone I'm a worthless failure. Dad wasn't at the hospital, but I knew this information would reach him within hours. And Rebecca, your law school tuition? The scholarship you thought you got last year. Rebecca's eyes widened. That was me. I donated to your school's scholarship fund with specific criteria that only you would meet. I paid for your education while you were posting on social media that I was faking disability for attention. Tears were streaming down Rebecca's face now, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of humiliated rage. Why would you do that? She whispered. Why help us if you hate us? I don't hate you, I said quietly. I just wanted to see if you'd love me without knowing I had money. If you'd believe I was sick even if I wasn't successful. If you'd treat me with basic human dignity when you thought I had nothing to offer. You failed every single test. Dr. Zhao stepped forward again. Now let me tell you what happens next. I'm filing formal complaints with Adult Protective Services. They'll investigate and likely press charges. Reckless endangerment, theft, fraud. That's 2 to 5 years probation minimum, possibly jail time. Mom started sobbing. We didn't know. You didn't want to know, Dr. Zhao corrected. Multiple doctors told you Sophia's condition was real. You chose not to believe them. That's willful ignorance, not innocent mistake. She pulled out more documents. I'm also filing complaints with the Oregon State Bar regarding Rebecca's social media posts. Lawyers are held to higher ethical standards. Your posts about your sister could be considered conduct unbecoming of the legal profession. Your law school will be notified. Rebecca collapsed into a chair. You're destroying my career before it even starts. No, I said. You destroyed it yourself. Every post you made. Every time you called me a liar. Every time you chose cruelty. These are just the consequences. Dr. Zhao handed final documents to security. These are contact prohibition orders. Sophia's lawyer will be filing permanent restraining orders within 48 hours. If either of you contact Sophia directly or indirectly, you'll be arrested for violation. What about family events? Mom asked desperately. Holidays. What if Dad wants to see her? Then Dad can reach out through Sophia's lawyer and request supervised contact, Dr. Zhao said. But given that he's complicit in this abuse, he was aware of the medication disposal and approved of blocking disability applications. I doubt that will be granted. He turned to me. Sophia, do you have anything else you want to say to them? I looked at my mother and sister. These people who'd made me doubt my own reality for 4 years. Who'd taken my suffering and made it about their embarrassment. Who'd chosen their pride over my health. You taught me exactly how much I was worth to you, I said. So I raised my price. You can't afford me anymore. Not financially, not emotionally, not in any way that matters. I wasn't hiding my success. I was watching you. Every dismissive comment, every cruel joke, every time you chose to doubt me, I was documenting it. Paper beats promises every single time. You mistook my silence for weakness. You mistook my invisible illness for invention. And you mistook strategy for failure. I'm done begging for a place at your table. I built my own table. And you're not invited. Then I wheeled toward the lab check-in desk where my appointment had been patiently waiting. Dr. Zhao walked beside me. Behind me, I heard Mom wailing as security escorted her and Rebecca out. I heard Linda telling other waiting room patients. That was medical abuse. I witnessed it. If anyone needs a statement, I'll provide one. I heard someone else say, I can't believe her own mother destroyed her medical records. My phone buzzed. Text from my lawyer Maria Santos, who I'd had on standby. Dr. Zhao just called. Protection orders filed. Police reports submitted. Criminal investigation opened. It's done. I texted back, thank you. The lab technician called my name. Sofia Martinez? We're ready for your kidney function tests. I wheeled into the exam room. Dr. Zhao followed. She'd decided to observe, both as medical board oversight and as personal support. How are you feeling? She asked gently once the door closed. Free, I said. And I meant it. Within 12 hours, Mom and Rebecca were formally interviewed by Portland Police and Adult Protective Services. The investigation was expedited given Dr. Zhao's involvement and the public nature of the hospital incident. Within 24 hours, charges were filed. Mom. Reckless endangerment of a dependent adult, theft of government benefits, destruction of medical property. Rebecca. Harassment, defamation, interference with medical care. Dad was interviewed 48 hours later. Turned out he'd been fully aware of everything, encouraging it even. He was charged as an accessory. Within 72 hours, the story hit local news. Family charged with abusing disabled daughter. Medical board director intervenes. The news footage included Linda's testimony about what she'd witnessed in the hospital waiting room. Rebecca's law school received the Oregon State Bar complaint along with screenshots of her social media posts. She was called before the ethics committee. Her law school suspended her pending investigation. Her graduation, scheduled for 3 months away, was indefinitely postponed. Mom and Dad's friends began distancing themselves. Linda, formerly Mom's close friend, gave multiple interviews about warning signs she'd missed, and how believable Patricia seemed. Dad's real estate business tanked. Once word spread about the abuse charges, clients canceled contracts. His reputation in Portland real estate was destroyed. The business I'd secretly saved was dying anyway, so I withdrew my investment. He filed bankruptcy within a month. My extended family fractured. Aunts and uncles who'd believed Rebecca's lies started reaching out with apologies. Some I accepted. Many I didn't. Forgiveness doesn't equal relationship restoration. Mom's book club expelled her. Her church community asked her to step back from volunteer roles. The social standing she'd valued above all else. The respectability, the reputation as a good mother. Gone. Rebecca's fiancé broke off their engagement. He'd seen the news coverage and, according to mutual acquaintances, told Rebecca he couldn't marry someone capable of that cruelty to family. Within 6 weeks, plea deals were offered. Mom and Dad accepted. 2 years probation, mandatory family therapy education, restitution payments totaling $86,000, calculated disability benefits owed, destroyed medication costs, my legal fees, and permanent restraining orders prohibiting contact unless I initiate. Rebecca refused to plea. She was convinced she could fight it, that a jury would see her posts as just venting about family stress. Her lawyer advised against trial. She ignored him. She was convicted on 4 counts of harassment. Sentence: 18 months probation, $24,000 restitution, community service, and a permanent record that would affect her bar admission. She never got to practice law. It's been 14 months since the hospital confrontation. I haven't spoken to my parents or Rebecca since that day. The restraining orders remain in effect. My company continues thriving. We've expanded to 17 employees. 2 drugs we consulted on have received FDA approval and are now on the market, helping hundreds of thousands of lupus patients. Our company valuation is now $127 million. I bought a fully accessible home, wide doorways, roll-in shower, adjustable counters. On good days I walk through it. On bad days I will. Both are valid ways to exist in my space. I'm dating someone I met through a chronic illness support group. Emma has rheumatoid arthritis. She understands invisible illness, the good days and bad days, the fear and the fighting. She's never once questioned if I'm really sick enough to use my wheelchair. Dr. Zhao became one of my closest friends. She's on my company's medical advisory board. She's also become a fierce advocate for medical abuse prevention, using my case as an example in her training programs for healthcare providers. Linda, ironically, became a supporter too. She felt so guilty about initially believing Mom's lies that she started volunteering with disability rights organizations. We have coffee occasionally. My parents tried reaching out through their lawyer 6 times in the first year. Each time, the message was some variation of, "We're sorry, we want to reconcile. Please give us another chance." I never responded. Their lawyer eventually stopped asking. 3 months ago, Dad had to sell their house. The bankruptcy, the legal fees, the restitution payments. They couldn't afford it. They moved to a rental apartment in a neighborhood they used to call beneath them. Mom got a job as a retail cashier, her first job in 30 years. I heard through relatives that she tells coworkers she's estranged from her daughter but never mentions why. Rebecca is working as a paralegal, the closest she'll likely ever get to being a lawyer. She still posts on social media occasionally, but her tone has changed. Less confident, more bitter. She never mentions me directly anymore. The restraining order prohibits it, but she posts vague statements about family betrayal and people who hold grudges. The lack of self-awareness is almost impressive. Last month, I spoke at a medical conference about designing patient-centered clinical trials. 500 healthcare providers in the audience. During Q&A, someone asked how I got into this field. I told them the truth. I have systemic lupus, I said. When I was first diagnosed, my family didn't believe me. They called me a faker, destroyed my medications, blocked my access to disability support. They tried to convince me I was lying about my own suffering. The room was silent. So I built a company that ensures other autoimmune patients don't get dismissed by the drug development process the way I was dismissed by my own family. Our consultants are all patients with lived experience. We understand the science and the suffering. We make sure clinical trials work for real humans with real conditions, not just for data points on spreadsheets. And we're successful because we treat patients as experts in their own conditions. Revolutionary concept, apparently. The room erupted in applause. After the presentation, dozens of people approached me, many of them chronic illness patients themselves, some of them healthcare providers who'd failed patients and wanted to do better. One woman, probably in her 60s, grabbed my hand with tears in her eyes. "My daughter has fibromyalgia. Her family doesn't believe her. Can I give her your company's information? She needs to know someone like you exists." "Of course," I said. "And tell her this, her pain is real even if they don't believe it. Her experience is valid even if they dismiss it. And she can build a life anyway without their permission." That's become my message. Your illness is real. Your pain is valid. And you don't owe anyone access to you while they're denying your reality. Build your success anyway. Build your support system anyway. Build your happiness anyway. And when they finally see what you've become without them, you don't have to look back. I still have lupus. I still have bad flares. Last week I was in bed for 3 days straight with joint pain and fatigue. Emma brought me soup and watched movies with me without once suggesting I was exaggerating. That's what support looks like. That's what family should look like. My biological family? I hear they're still struggling. Dad can't find good real estate work. Mom hates her retail job. Rebecca is bitter about her derailed law career. They lost everything. Their reputation, their financial stability, their daughter. Because they chose pride over empathy, denial over acceptance, cruelty over compassion. Sometimes people ask if I feel guilty. If I think I was too harsh. If I should have given them another chance. The answer is no. They had 4 years of chances. Every time I explained my diagnosis, every time I showed them medical records, every time I quietly endured their mockery, those were chances. They chose cruelty every single time. I don't regret protecting myself. I don't regret the consequences they earned. And I don't regret building a life they'll never be part of. Because here's what they never understood. I wasn't faking illness for attention. I was surviving illness despite their abuse. And I didn't just survive, I thrived. My company will generate $18 million in revenue this year. We'll consult on drug trials that could help millions of autoimmune patients. We'll employ people with disabilities who bring expertise no able-bodied consultant could match. And I'll do it all while managing a chronic illness that my family claimed didn't exist. That's not revenge. That's justice. That's proof that they were wrong about everything. I'm not a faker. I'm not a burden. I'm not an attention seeker. I'm a CEO, a patient advocate, a partner, a friend. I'm a person with lupus who built something meaningful despite everyone saying I couldn't. And if my family ever sees this story, I hope they finally understand. You didn't break me. You tested me. And I passed every single test you failed. If you've ever had to prove your invisible illness was real to people who should have believed you from the start, tell me your story in the comments. What would you have done? Does any of this feel familiar? And if you're currently dealing with family who won't believe your chronic illness, document everything, build your support system, protect yourself legally, and remember, your pain is real even if they deny it. Your success will be the validation they refuse to give. Subscribe for more stories about people who built empires while everyone doubted them. Because sometimes the best response to your faking is proving them wrong in ways they never imagined possible.